In the heart of ancient Galilee, under the scorching sun, a crowd gathered around Jesus. The air was thick with anticipation as people from all walks of life, fishermen, farmers, merchants, and even the destitute, waited to hear his words. Jesus, seeing the weariness and despair in their eyes, began to speak, his voice resonating with compassion and wisdom. He knew that many in the crowd were burdened by financial struggles, their spirits weighed down by the relentless grind of poverty. To lift their spirits and instill in them a sense of hope and purpose, he shared a parable that would forever change their perspective on stewardship and faith. For it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. Jesus began, his eyes scanning the crowd, capturing the attention of every listener. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The crowd leaned in, their curiosity piqued. Talents, they knew, were a significant sum of money, and the idea of being entrusted with such wealth was both intriguing and daunting. Jesus continued, his voice painting a vivid picture in their minds. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. A murmur rippled through the crowd as they imagined the servants' actions. Some nodded in approval at the diligence of the first 2 servants, while others shook their heads at the 3rd servant's lack of initiative. Jesus paused, allowing the scene to sink in before revealing the master's return. After a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, "Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." The crowd cheered, their hearts swelling with pride for the faithful servant. Jesus smiled, his eyes twinkling with approval. He then turned his attention to the 2nd servant, who had also multiplied his talents. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, "Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." Again, the crowd erupted in applause, their spirits lifted by the servant's success. But Jesus' expression grew solemn as he recounted the fate of the 3rd servant. Then he who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, "Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours." The crowd fell silent, their joy replaced by a sense of unease. They waited with bated breath as Jesus revealed the master's response. But his master answered him, "You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." The crowd gasped, the weight of the parable settling upon them like a heavy cloak. Jesus looked out at the sea of faces, his eyes filled with love and encouragement. He spoke softly, his words a balm to their troubled hearts. "For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey." As the crowd dispersed, their minds filled with the parable's lessons, they carried with them a renewed sense of purpose and hope. They understood that their talents, whether great or small, were gifts from God, entrusted to them for a purpose. And like the faithful servants in the story, they were called to use those talents wisely, to multiply them, and to bring glory to their master in heaven. In the days that followed, the people of Galilee began to see their circumstances in a new light. No longer were they defined by their financial struggles. Instead, they were stewards of God's blessings, charged with the responsibility of using their talents to serve Him and others. And as they did so, they found that their burdens grew lighter, their spirits more resilient, and their faith unshakable. For they knew that, like the servants in the parable, they too would one day stand before their master and hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master." And with that hope burning brightly in their hearts, they pressed on, their eyes fixed on the eternal reward that awaited them. And so, the parable of the talents became a beacon of hope and inspiration for the people of Galilee. A reminder that even in the darkest of times, their faith in the stewardship could lead them to a brighter future. And as they walked in the footsteps of Jesus, they discovered that true wealth lay not in material possessions, but in the love, grace, and mercy of their Heavenly Father.